Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the launch of this Arc Flash safety film. For those that don't know, my name is Michael Gibson. I'm the Director of Compliance with the Electrical Safety Office. Before we get started on the film, we'll just get a couple of topics up front, little discussion points. I know a lot of people on this meeting are pretty up to date with where we're at with Arc Flash, but we really want to get a consistent message out there. We all know that working on or near hazardous parts in our industry is one of the greatest risks that electrical workers will face, and it's something that we can't eliminate. So we know that every time that we do an isolation, we have to confirm that it's been isolated. So working in switchboards is going to be a constant part of our daily life, and that's something that we need to remind industry about. We know the risk of Arc Flash. We know that we've experienced a lot of incidents with Arc Flash, and Stacey's going to expand on some of that work that we're going to do around that Arc Flash work. The main thing that we wanted to cover off is the process around the risk management and how to recognise some of the options that we have moving forward to deal with it, and what we can teach the industry about some of the mitigation strategies. One of the areas we looked at was we conducted an Arc Flash research project. Now this project was commissioned to really look at the behaviours out there of electrical workers and the decision making of electrical workers when they are actually working on or near live parts. There's some really big issues and some big learnings from that project, and we're going to put a bit of a working group together to follow up on some of those learnings moving forward. We think that many of the incidents that we've looked at are the result of poor decision making by the workers, particularly where they're going to ignore work procedures and training and undertake work on equipment and leave it and choose to leave it energised. So that was one of the fundamental factors that we found out in the research project. So it means that electrical workers they're placing themselves at risk with an Arc Flash injury by working near these live parts and doing it knowingly, and we need to understand that decision making. So that's one area we're going to look at. Before we go too much further, I'll introduce Stacey, and she'll cover off on some of the work we're doing in the ESO.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today. I'm Stacey Oslands. For the last couple of weeks and the next couple of weeks, I'm the Acting Executive Director for the Electrical Safety Office. And I would like to pass on Donna Heelan's apology. She's had to take some leave, and I know that she is very passionate about this work and disappointed she couldn't be here with us all today. My substantive role at the ESO is in the Supply and Networks team, so some of you do know me, and I've been around the industry for a little while. The Electrical Safety Office is committed to working with industry, workers in the community about the risks of Arc Flash. There have been too many incidents, and some of those incidents are incredibly serious and leave a lasting impact on workers, the businesses that they work for, and their families. As Michael said, last year we commissioned some research to really understand the human behaviour, why people make decisions that are risky decisions, and unfortunately sometimes they end very badly. We're using that research to pull together a whole range of initiatives at the ESO, and one of those initial initiatives is an internal working group to work through the outcomes of the research, what it is that we can do by working with industry to reduce the number of incidents. Like I said, there's been too many. Since 2011, there's been 47 serious incidents with Arc Flash, and that is one too many, or 47 too many, I should say. We know we don't have all the answers in-house, and that's why with our working group we will come out to industry, and many of you on the meeting today were in that launch of the research last year, and many of you have already put your hand up to assist us, and we will come out once we start pulling together those initiatives to get your input and your insights into what you think might help us. And building off what Michael's already said as well, there's no one answer to the solution. We have to look at end-to-end what it is that we can do to reduce people making poor safety decisions that result in a serious incident. So without further ado, I will introduce the film, and I encourage you all to watch, and we'll be back shortly after.
When you woke up this morning, you thought this would be a day like any other. You've been called in to do a quick job. Change a circuit breaker. No big deal. You've done it a million times before. You aren't going to rock the boat by asking for the power to be shut down. You'll just do it live. It'll only take a second.
Here's your breaker.
What you don't know is in the 6 months since this panel was last opened, dust has built up between live parts. There's a loose screw waiting to drop at any minute, and the insulation on the bus bar is old, worn, and about to crack. But that doesn't matter. Whatever the reason, you're working on live, energised equipment, and this is about to happen. So, what just happened? You just experienced an arc flash, an unexpected violent electrical short circuit where current flowed between the phase conductors, neutral, and earth. When that electrical arc fault occurred, the following things happened. The arc caused a superheated ball of flame to erupt around you, a fireball that reached 20,000 degrees Celsius in a fraction of a second. That's 4 times hotter than the surface of the sun, and it happened 30 centimetres from your face. The copper conductors vaporised and expanded up to 67,000 times their original volume, culminating in a shower of molten metal flying directly at you. The vaporised metals, smoke and burnt components formed a boiling, poisonous gas that engulfed you and went into your airways. The pressure wave knocked you off your feet and into the wall behind you, collapsing your left lung. Thankfully, you survived. Your hands took the bulk of the heat blast, causing third-degree burns. You'll need skin grafts and months of rehabilitation. If you had worn the correct protective gloves, you could have reduced the risks and avoided serious burns. Your front and back were badly burnt, with second-degree burns across your chest from the initial blast, as well as a patchwork of first and second-degree burns where your shirt caught fire. If you had been wearing the correct arc-rated protective clothing, it could have prevented the arc flash from setting your clothes on fire. None of this would have happened if you had assessed the risks and de-energised the switchboard before you started work. But it's too late now. You will never regain the full use of your hands, so you may not be able to work as an electrician again. You'll be off work of any sort for months. On top of the injuries and lost wages, you'll also have fines to pay. If there are energised parts, expect the unexpected and protect yourself against arc flash. Always follow safe work procedures and wear appropriate PPE to reduce the risks of serious burns, injury, or death. Remember, the only way to eliminate the risk of arc flash is to choose not to work live.
Thank you, and I hope everyone got a little bit out of that film. Our main priority now is obviously to get that film out to as many stakeholders and people with a vested interest in this area. So we wholly encourage that we share this film. I think we've all heard people say, you know, I've heard figures like 90% of safety incidents are caused by unsafe acts. And the only way, you know, humans are fallible, and the only way we're going to deal with this is to drive enforcement of that type of thing. I think what we need to understand is this issue is going to be more complex than that. This is not about just enforcement. It's not about just us as a regulator driving enforcement into that electrical industry. This is a complex problem and we need a complex solution for it. It's more than one area. We need to look at how we're going to engage, the messages we put out there, what enforcement strategy can we put around there, how do we raise awareness to make sure that arc flash is something that people consider every time they start working, particularly switchboards. We've got here today Pete Mundy. He's our Principal Inspector with the Electrical Safety Office. He can give a little bit of background of what he's seeing out there in the field.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Yeah, look, the video that we've put together there, I think, is an excellent adaptation of what we're seeing out there as inspectors in the real world. There's obviously thousands of different ways in which arc flash can occur, but that particular switchboard is very typical of what we're seeing out there, and the results of such people working on them. So last week we actually had an incident eerily similar to that location, and the guy was lucky enough that the injuries were covered by the way he actually performed the work. So one of the things I hope that we can get out there is the behaviours of people realising that work does need to be done in energized situations. Not that one, obviously, but if the work does go ahead, the work is done in a way that protects themselves. And I think that's seeing this video is what workers in particular will be able to take something away from that. You know, because they can see actually what can occur. So if they can protect themselves and then remove themselves from that situation, I think we've achieved our targets there. And if the video is available on the WorkSafe website, so worksafe.qld.gov.au/arcflash, you'll be able to, there'll be a link there for that. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Pete, for that. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll just cover a couple of the, just some of the core things about arc flash hazard management, and we want to make sure that term's used regularly when it comes to working on near live parts. So, we want industry to understand that arc flash is a hazard and when to start putting these strategies in place. We want people to identify the assets that they are working on and what is going to be the potential fault current at those assets. So I think there's a failure out there in industry not appreciating the level of fault current on some of those bigger switchboards. We want you to assess that risk. We want really quality risk assessment out there. We want to develop and implement solid, safe systems of work to do that work safely. And validated control. And we want people to understand PPE and what are the best requirements out there for PPE to get the correct category rating, that type of thing. I think we discussed a little bit there about effective controls. Obviously, we'll never forget that the priority is elimination. So wherever possible, turn the power off. That is our mantra across our industry. So wherever possible, elimination is the greatest strategy. Turn the switchboard off, turn the equipment off you're working on. And then we get industry stepping in. Now, substitution is a big part of this, replacing equipment, so it's actually designed and it's got arc flash rated equipment out there. So it does protect the workers who are working on that equipment. Where possible, we talk about isolate, putting barriers in place, shields in place. So you are protected from those exposed parts that you can work on other sections of the board. A little bit around the engineering, we've got some really, really great engineered switchboards out there. They are designed to contain that arc flash. And obviously last is PPE. We can't stress enough the importance of PPE and PPE rated to the type of work you're doing. But I think you need to remember that it's only designed to reduce the burn injury to a worker to a curable level. That sounds pretty bad, but that's what PPE can do in an arc flash incident. And I think if that's somewhere we can focus on, I think it's a really important part of the process.
Hey, that was a good presentation, and I think we've got to get it out. What was that website again? Is that the Electrical Safety Office website? What was it?
That was worksafe.qld.gov.au. Arc flash. So that's the WorkSafe website.
So,
Now we up to date.
You'll actually receive an email, Keith. You'll get an email from Donna's email address today, and we're asking everyone on the call, all of our stakeholders, to work with us here. We're sending you out what we call a media pack. It's similar to some other launches we've done. We'll give you all of the resources you need, and we're asking you to please share this widely with your network. The more people that can see the film, it's one tool that we can use to minimise the risk. So you'll have that in the email that you get from us today.
If there is no other questions, I just want to go back and do a little bit of housekeeping. Something I forgot. It normally should happen at the front end, but I'll do it right now. I'm sorry for that. So I would like to begin by acknowledging, or really end by acknowledging the Yagara people, traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, and pay my respects to the elders past and present. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. Thank you. Has anyone else on the panel got anything to close it out with, or are we happy to?
I'm happy.
Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. Like Stacey said, there will be a media pack emailed to everybody. It'll have a link to the film, and we encourage you to share that with everyone you can. So get the message out there.